Hello, everybody, and of course, welcome back to another episode of X Talking Ish with your boy X.
And this.
You already know what to do. If you are on Facebook, please make sure you like and share this broadcast. If you are on our Facebook page, please make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. And as well, if you are on YouTube checking us out, please make sure you go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And also go ahead and hit that notification bell for shows like this one in the future.
Ding.
Thank you for that, Ish. And as well, if you are on Twitter, please make sure you go ahead and check us out on Periscope at X Talking Ish. And also check us out on my personal page at X_Williams81. I went ahead and retweeted the show. So, again, no excuses not to check out this show today. Ish. First thing first, of course, let's welcome everybody back. We took a week hiatus from the last show. We were, of course, the show prior to the week off. We did the mock draft show. Ish, I know we talked about it, but we are not draft gurus, nor do we want to be, because honestly, just watching all these mock drafts make me sick. Honestly, having to see all the moving around and trade things. And trade opportunities and who wants to trade up, who wants to trade down. I don't want to have to do that all day. So, with that being said, that's why we did our draft a couple weeks ago. Took a week off because it wasn't too much to talk about. Besides, everybody wanted to be traded, and get their money, wide receivers. That's another story we'll talk about after the draft. But before the draft starts on Thursday, I wanted to figure out every team's best and worst first round draft picks. So, Ish, what I went ahead and did is I got all the teams lined up from the Arizona Cardinals all the way to the Washington Commanders and put together a list of everyone's best first round draft pick and their worst. And it's not even just about if they were able to play on the field, issues on the field. Some of these worst draft picks maybe could have been because of what happened off of the field as well too. So you're gonna hear some names that you know of, and you'll hear some names that you're like, I don't know who this guy is.
Never heard of them, yeah.
But you're gonna learn something today. We're gonna have some fun.
You're gonna learn today.
We're gonna have some fun, and this should be a nice little preview into the upcoming draft. Of course, on Thursday, the NFL is gonna have, honestly, probably one of the best drafts in Vegas. This is upcoming. I mean, the best venue. I mean, it's nothing but a show, a spectacle there.
Oh, yeah.
I expect nothing but social media fun due to things that are going to happen in Vegas. So
I wish I was there, to be honest.
We really should have been there this year, but unfortunately, just due to things that are out of our control, we are in Houston, and hopefully in the future, when all this pandemic stuff calms down, we can go back to moving around a little bit more freely the way we like to.
For sure.
All righty then. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's keep it within an hour. Let's get the folks in. Let's get the folks out. I know they want to be hearing us talk for 2.5 hours. Let's do the power hour.
We really could, though.
Let's get them in. And let's get you out. If anything, we could be like the preacher at church, but we're not going to. We're going to praise.
You're funny.
And we're going to let y'all go. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and start off with the Arizona Cardinals. Their best first-round draft pick was Mr. Larry Fitzgerald, and their worst draft pick was kicker Steve Little-ish.
I mean, the Larry Fitzgerald one for me, I think that's like a no-brainer, pretty easy. Steve Little. Yo, when a kicker, does it say something about your organization when a kicker is your worst pick, or does it say something about your organization that a kicker was your worst pick?
It's funny that this comes up because when I saw it as well too, I was kind of perplexed why a team would draft a kicker in the first round, right?
Yeah, all right.
But at the time when the Arizona Cardinals made this pick, apparently Steve Little was actually the holder in college for having the longest field goal made in college. So at the time, he had some to his resume when it comes to being able to get drafted that high. He's actually the third highest draft pick as a kicker. So again, he was a decent kicker. He just didn't work out for Steve Little and the Arizona Cardinals. So
I mean, I didn't see Justin Tucker go in the first round.
hey, I don't make the draft picks, sir.
Okay.
I'm just here talking about them. And again, that's another reason why I named this episode Draft Hindsight, because in hindsight, it's easy to look back and say, hey, that was a stupid pick, right? Or hey, picking Larry Fitzgerald, that was an easy pick. It was at the time too. Nobody expected him to probably be one of, if not, some people feel like maybe the greatest wide receiver to play the game.
Yeah.
But that's why you make these type of decisions, because it's about drafting off of potential and what that individual could be. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We know who Larry Fitzgerald is. He is going to be walking into the Hall of Fame with a gold jacket very soon. Let's go ahead and move on to the Atlanta Falcons. Their best first-round draft pick is offensive lineman Mike Ken. Worst first-round draft pick is linebacker Andre Bruce. Ish.
I'm not sure about this one. This is one where I'm a little iffy about. Are you sold on Mike Ken? For me, when I'm looking at Atlanta, I thought who better than Prime?
Dion, I got you. No, you're not.
Like
you're not wrong.
I'm confused. I was confused when I saw that. I was like,
you're not wrong.
But
you're not wrong.
When you have somebody named Primetime in your.
You're not wrong. The way I looked at it is longevity. He was there for 17 years. He also had 251 starts. And again, we're talking about what that draft pick was able to do for your franchise, right? Not that draft pick.
That's true. Not that person.
What he
career,
turned into,
not
because
career.
Exactly.
Okay.
Career-wise,
yeah.
Dion. Come on now, we know this.
Yeah.
This isn't a no-brainer. But
when you say it like that, it's fair.
That's the reason why he's up there. Again, might not be a household name like Dion, but in the Atlanta area, for the most part, if you like the line, you're gonna know about Mike Kent.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's all. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, for the most part, most people should know this guy's name. Best first-round draft pick, linebacker Ray Lewis. Worst first-round draft pick, quarterback Kyle Boller. So, Ish, I know you remember some Kyle Boller. You want to spit your 2 cents about him?
Yeah, Kyle Boller, if I remember correctly, he came out of Cal, and there was a lot of hype about Kyle Boller coming out, and how he flopped. I agree with this one 100%. Kyle Boller, he had to be the worst pick for them. And this was back when, selecting the wrong quarterback really, really hurt your franchise for a long time. So, this was a big one to miss on.
What was funny about this pick the way they were able to make it was that what I'm saying is that during that time, that was a good Ravens era. Still, this is 2003. They're coming off of the Super Bowl run, continuing to be in the playoffs. They picked him at 19th in the first round, so they were, of course, in that middle of the pack of that NFL season in the previous season. That's why they chose Kyle Boller and to try to, like you said, is try to find that franchise quarterback. That's what they were trying to do. It didn't happen, but the good thing about the Ravens, they are a franchise that we've seen it with Joe Flacco, right? They don't need, to my opinion, they don't need a household name to be successful. Because they are a team.
Trent Dilfer.
With or without Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are going to be fine. But Joe Flacco, aka Joe Cool, was the guy that was cooling the pressure and that was able to help get that offense to the promised land. And with Kyle Boller, it just seemed like he wasn't able to fit in that system, was never able to even throw for more than 48% completion rate. That's just horrible in itself. And like you said, it's for a guy to come out of Cal with all the hype, unfortunately just did not live up to it. All right, let's go ahead and go off to Buffalo. And this is, again, a pretty easy one here. You have best defensive end, Mr. Bruce Smith, and their worst first-round draft pick, linebacker Tom. Can you help me out with that one, Ish? Kanusu?
Casino?
Casino.
I don't know.
I don't know how to say it either, but it's right there for you if y'all want to check it out. I'm horrible at pronunciations, but we're going to get it together. Now, the reason why this pick was the worst for the Buffalo Bills is because it's very interesting to me how all this played out for the Buffalo Bills. Because if you want to take it back a little bit to the 70s, at the time, the NFL was not what the NFL was as it is right now in 2022. They were still challenging other football leagues for the dominance in the world when it comes to who's the main football league. And with that being said, at the time, Tom, he actually signed with the CFL. Even though he got drafted by Buffalo, he went ahead and signed with the CFL and played there because they actually offered more money than the NFL at the time. So the Bills went ahead and retained his rights for that draft pick, and it ended up turning into becoming the draft pick for Hall of Famer quarterback Jim Kelly. So it's funny how things work out because even though it probably was the worst pick for the Buffalo Bills,
how can it be the worst pick then?
But that's my point. It's a blessing in disguise because you drafted a guy that never played for you. You drafted a guy that never played for you.
But it ended up turning into a Hall of Famer.
Hey, you're correct. You're correct. So, but it can't be best. Can't be best. So if you got somebody worse, so you got somebody on the first round draft pick for the Bills that's worse, either you let me know or the people that's listening to us right now, please let us know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I don't like this. I don't like my man Tom being the worst when his rights ended up turning into Jim Kelly. So
it's crazy how that works out sometimes. I just wanted to throw a little monkey wrench into this one. That's all.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let's just go ahead and move on down to the Kakalakis. Carolina Panthers. This is a pretty easy one right here. Best defensive end, Julius Peppers.
Yo, this worst one is a doozy.
Hey, if the young folks don't know, you want to go ahead and help them out on that one, Ish?
I mean, let's just say that this man he was just recently released from prison, wasn't he?
He was actually.
Yeah, he was just recently released from prison. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Just go look up Ray Caruth. It's a whole another situation. Yeah, this is a no-brainer for worst. Like, this is another one of those. Yeah, I don't care if you pick someone like the last pick and they never played for you. It doesn't get much worse than this situation.
See, that's what I'm saying, though. Sometimes it's perspective of how you see it. This guy played for you and had the situation off the field. Yeah, one guy that never played for you, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would prefer the guy that never played for me.
All righty then. We'll go ahead and move on from the dark humor joke and go ahead and move on to a dark place like Chicago and the Windy City.
Dark place.
Hey, seriously though, when it gets nighttime in Chicago, it's pretty dark. Not in a bad way. I'm talking about like low key, kind of like a Batman movie. But Batman's not coming to fight crime. If that makes sense. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the best first round draft pick. Mr. Sweetness himself, running back Walter Payton, worst first round draft pick. Another running back, Mr. Curtis Enis. Now, the thing with the Chicago Bears, they do love some running backs. One thing about Chicago Bears, they're going to they are the NFL version, of course, of running back U. A lot of wide receiver. A lot of colleges like to call themselves wide receiver U, running back U, quarterback U, whatever it is. That's the Chicago Bears when it comes to running back. And unfortunately, this guy was supposed to be
The next Walter.
That and also kind of it reminds me of with Saquon Barkley, another wide receiver, another running back coming out of Penn State, and it just seems like it's not living up to expectations at the moment. Enos never started more than 12 games, never broke 1,000 yards in 3 seasons before taking an early retirement, and it's just one of those things where, again, when it comes to the draft, it's not about what you did in college. A lot of people feel like because of what somebody did in college, it's just going to translate over to the NFL, but it's just not the case at all. Sometimes a lot of players is about schemes. It's about just the right fit overall culturally for you. It's just about how does
also the
coach
city
you up. That too.
The city can be
build
a big
you up or break you down.
Yeah, the city can be a big factor in that as well.
It's a lot of different factors that are involved in being a successful, not even just a successful football player, but also a successful person in life. How you feel about that, Ish? I'm just saying. Not just in football. I'm just talking about in everybody's everyday regular job. If you're in a gloomy city, and you're not happy, the weather might be affecting you how you perform at your job, how you act at home. Just saying. All right, Cincinnati Bengals. Their best first-round draft pick, Mr. Anthony Munoz. Their worst first-round draft pick, quarterback, Akil Smith. Now, before everybody kills me, I did see the Super Bowl. We watched it. If y'all want to go check out our Super Bowl video, you're more than welcome to go check that out. And I do know there's a guy named Joe Burrow that easily probably could be on this list and probably should be on this list. But Ish and I, we talked about it in the pre-show, and we kind of, for the most part, came to an agreement that Joe Burrow has not written his story in the NFL just yet. It's just getting started.
Ish. I think just to kind of reiterate that we do think highly of Joe Burrow and what he's been able to do for the city of Cincinnati, for the Bengals organization, but 1 year to me is not enough to say you're the best pick, especially when you got a Hall of Famer like Anthony Munoz. That like you can't really just put Joe Burrow in there. What if Joe Burrow never takes them back to the playoffs again? Right? Then what are we gonna say? That 1 year? I 100% second what you're saying as far as like we said before. Come next year, maybe he's on the list, right? Maybe he takes them back to the Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowl. Appearances, then maybe we're having a different conversation. But to be honest, I think it's still too early to have him on there.
Hey, I agree with everything that you said, and it's just again a part of the unfortunate truth when it comes to not just football but life outside of football. We unfortunately just saw what happened to Dwayne Haskins, and that's an unfortunate reminder that life is not guaranteed. Okay? Going out there to go play every Sunday on that football field is not guaranteed. And I ain't talking about just off the field. We talking about on the field as well, too. We saw what happened to Alex Smith and his leg. You saw the recovery process that happened to him to not even just get on the field, but just walk again. So, do we believe in Joe Burrow? I'll be the first one to tell you, hell yeah, I do. But we also believe that every day is not guaranteed. So, let's also take advantage of every day. And let's get better, and we'll see what happens with all of the work that we put in, what comes out of it. So, worst first-round draft pick, quarterback Akil Smith. Now, he was a guy that, I guess, better in layman's terms to describe him of this generation, kind of reminds me of a potential draft pick in this upcoming draft, Malik Willis. Right? He was a guy that mobile quarterback can throw the ball. And was hoping that Cincinnati was hoping was going to be this franchise quarterback. It just never panned out. Just one of those cases where another Oregon quarterback was not successful in the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our favorite team in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. Everybody's favorite, America's favorite. And, of course, their best player besides Mr. Jim Brown, Mr. Joe Thomas. Mr. Joe Thomas, and also the worst first round draft pick linebacker Mike Junkin ish.
Yeah, I think another person that Joe Thomas has just been rock solid for them, right? He's been great. I think
Not a sexy position, not something that everybody wants to play, but
yeah. But you could also look at like a Ozzie Newsome, who performed really well for Cleveland, and did really well there for a long time. So, but Joe Thomas, I'm not mad at that pick. I think it's solid. And to be honest, Mike Junkin, I had never heard of you before in my life.
Well, that's why we are here to learn about the football game. So what happened with Mike Junkin is 1987, the franchise traded their 5th overall pick, sending linebacker Chip Banks in its first and second round selections to San Diego Chargers at the time, and chose Junkin, who then scout Dom Ainley and famously compared to a quote-unquote mad dog in a meat market. Junkin played 2 seasons in Cleveland, never found a regular role amongst his linebacking corps before being traded to Kansas City Chiefs for a 5th round draft pick. So, started off in Cleveland, ended up in Kansas City, and that was it for Mr. Junkin. All right, let's go ahead and move on to America's team. Y'all know who it is. Y'all know who we're talking about. Cowboys. Ish. This is pretty easy on the first one. Of course, Mr. Not just Mr. running back Emmitt Smith, but Mr. leading the NFL in yardage, Mr. Emmitt Smith. And the worst running back, Bill Thomas. It's kind of funny to me because the Cowboys kind of emulate the Bears on this one when it comes to hitting high on running backs, but also hitting low as well, ish.
Yeah, I mean, how can you go against Emmitt Smith? What he's done in the game, what he did for the Cowboys, well documented in the NFL history, that organization's history. So, yeah, I definitely have to go with Emmitt Smith as the best, and then the worst, Bill Thomas. Just completely underwhelming. There's nothing even really to be said, really.
Yes, again, he was supposed to be the next great running back, hopefully, in Cowboys history. Just did not pan out.
Nope.
Back from the 70s. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Denver Broncos, of course, their best first-round draft pick, Mr. Von Miller, linebacker. And their worst is quarterback, Mr. Tommy Maddox. Now, if Tommy Maddox rings a bell out in your head, you should, if you do remember his name, he ended with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he also played in at the time, the upstart league called the XFL. So, yes, he ended up he ended up towards the end of his career starting with the XFL for that 1 year that they were there, and then was able to get onto the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers and was able to finish off his career with the Steelers, which he didn't have too bad of an end of his career. He was able to help the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to be relevant, and again, what the Steelers were able to do, which they've been doing for 40 plus years now, is compete with a mediocre quarterback. And that's what Tommy Maddox, to me, brought to the Steelers. Ish?
Yeah, I just remember Tommy Maddox for XFL, to be honest.
Okay.
That's what stands out about him to me. But, yeah, he did do a decent job in Pittsburgh, and they were able to win some games with him. But ultimately, he's the XFL guy for me. I
didn't know you honestly only knew him for the XFL. That's kind of surprising to me. I thought you remember him from the Steeler days.
No.
Anywho, all right. The Detroit Lions first round draft pick. Their best one was, of course, Mr. Barry Sanders, and their worst was wide receiver Charles Rodgers. Now, of course, we can go on and on about Barry because he deserves to be talked about in a very great manner as always. But let's talk about Mr. Charles Rodgers now. With us being in Texas, I think we watched a lot of Mr. Charles Rodgers back in the day. Watching him play back in the early 2000s. How do you feel about what could have been for Charles Rodgers? Because the potential was there. Just didn't seem like that it got honed in.
Yeah, I think this was when they were going through a string of picking wide receivers in the first round.
Yep.
Detroit kind of went on a little run. They had Roy Williams, then they went and got Charles Rodgers. And I mean, there may be an argument about Roy Williams and where exactly he fits in because he was doing well for Detroit, but I do think when he went to Dallas, he kind of stepped it up a little bit more. And I think a lot of people remember him more so for Dallas than they do Detroit. Okay. But Charles Rodgers was in that same time period when they started picking all those wide receivers. And unfortunately, Charles Rodgers just never lived up to the hype. He just always seemed out of it, never could really quite perform. I like that you bring up Joey Harrington. Because I remember him coming out of Oregon, and man, he did not do a single thing for them.
I'm not mad at that.
So yeah, Joey Harrington definitely should have got a shout as well.
Fracture Walnut says, "What's good, boys? Came in late today is draft week. Well, since you came in late, I'll bring you up to speed. Of course, we are discussing every team's worst and best first round draft pick selection." I'm happy Fracture Walnut came just in time because we're just a couple of picks away from the Houston Texans, of course, his team, and we'll get to that very, very shortly. But before we move on to the next team, you have anything else to say about the great Barry Sanders or, of course, the underwhelming Mr. Charles Rodgers?
I mean, there's really nothing to be said about the great Barry Sanders other than, he's one of the best ever to do it. Charles Rodgers, just unfortunate, man. It was just really unfortunate. I remember seeing him play at Michigan State, seeing him come out and being excited about him. And unfortunately for him, I think he ended up in an organization with the Detroit Lions that ultimately they don't do too much for people. So
I gotta agree with you on that one. It was multiple things with Charles Rodgers when it comes to why he wasn't successful. Besides the injuries, he, of course, got in trouble multiple times for violating NFL drug policy. And it just seemed like he had more demons off the field than he did than he had to. So he had a lot of demons off the field that didn't allow him to focus on the field. And with that being said, when you are not in the right mental space to be able to take care of your business, it's going to affect you in some type of way. So unfortunately, that happened with Mr. Charles Rodgers, and it's just goes to show you that every first-round draft pick is not a guarantee. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Green Bay Packers. Y'all might have heard of this guy. He likes to hold the Green Bay Packers hostage every summer to make sure that he gets a new contract.
Their best first-round draft pick.
Am I wrong? I mean, last 2 years
He's not holding them hostage.
We had Rodgers watch over the last.
They can move on to Justin Love if they want to.
Jesus Christ, they don't want to. You know that. They don't want to. All right, first best draft pick for the Packers, quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Their worst, offensive lineman Tony Marinarich. You have anything to say?
No, Aaron Rodgers, I feel good about Aaron Rodgers being that pick for them, although if I remember correctly, he was almost the last pick in the first round. Was he the last pick in the first round?
No, he almost was. He was 20. I gotta go look it up. Come on, you my stats guy. You supposed to.
Yeah, I forgot where. I forgot. I'm pulling it up though.
Come on, man. I bet you I get it before you.
You probably will.
Oh Lord.
And
yep, can't find it. All right, I'm quitting.
You're funny. Yeah, 22 I believe.
Okay. 24. 24.
There
we go. It only took us about 10 minutes. There we go. All right, we were close. It was in the 20s. 24.
He was in the 20s. I mean, they really kind of lucked out in that one.
Oh, yeah, did they? I mean, again, if we go back to that, and again, that's why it's called draft hindsight at the moment. If you look back and looked at that draft, Aaron Rodgers was pissed off in the green room, blue room, war room, whatever room you want to call it, and who knows? Maybe that filled his fire to be who he is right now. It seems like he's a guy that plays off of people doubting him, like Tom Brady, and who knows if he maybe went number one overall, we might have been able to get this type of Aaron Rodgers. If everything was given to him because of how great he was, we might not have been able to get this type of Aaron Rodgers. So sometimes it is good to be drafted in a certain lower position because it fuels you to become the best player that you want to be. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Houston Texans because I know everybody in Houston's been waiting on this one. And let's be real, this is pretty easy. This is pretty easy right here. The Houston Texans, at the moment, only Hall of Famer. They'll be walking in very soon, hopefully. Wide receiver, Mr. Andre Johnson, and their worst defensive end, Travis Johnson. Now, no relation because at the end of the day, we have one Johnson that's wearing a gold jacket, the other Johnson that's wearing a whatever jacket he wants to. But it ain't gold. So, that being said, Ish, how you feel about the home team in these picks?
I mean, I think David Carr should have got a shout, man. The number of times he was sacked,
That'll make you the best player, boy.
Hey.
I'll make you the best.
Bruh, he was the best at getting sacked.
Hey, David Carr not even holding any more of these quarterback records. These quarterback records from the Texans about to get expunged real quick. Davis Mills is about to take over.
Oh, okay.
Fractured walnut. He believes.
That's wonderful. I'll just say Andre Johnson, man, hats off to him for staying in Houston as long as he did. But yeah, Travis Johnson, on the other hand, if only he could have stolen some of the Johnson power from Andre, then maybe he wouldn't have been as bad as he was for the Texans.
Andre was hogging all the Johnson power. That's what it was.
I think so.
All right. Fracture One also says, thank you for putting Travis Johnson. That guy was a definition of trash.
There you go. Ooh. Straight from a fan.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and go on to another AFC South rival, Indianapolis Colts. I think you might have heard of this guy. He has a brother named Cooper. He has another brother named Eli. This quarterback name is Mr. Peyton Manning. And their worst first-round draft pick, defensive end Steve Edman-ish.
Yeah. How can you argue with Peyton and Mr. Steve? Injuries, unfortunately, and there is a theme with some of these worst picks, right? A lot of these guys, they didn't end up getting to play maybe because they were injured or something happened.
And that's why I said it wasn't just because of performance. It could have been because, like I said, injuries, things off the field. We have another guy that's going to be coming up, and I'll get to him shortly when it happens on why he's considered their worst first round draft pick. But I will say on this, though, Steve Edman might not be known for being a productive defensive end. But if you have watched one of the 90s best sports movies that came out, a movie called The Little Giants, he actually does make an appearance in The Little Giants. So if you ever go back and go rewatch that, he's that big hulking guy that towers over everyone else, and that is Steve Edman. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, their best first-round draft pick, again, at the moment, because who knows? Maybe it could be sunshine, but
wow,
we have to wait and see. First-round draft pick is the offensive lineman Tony Baselli, and their worst wide receiver, Justin Blackman. Go ahead and start this one off because I know it's very dear to your heart. I know you remember watching him when we were in high school, and I know you expected him to have such a better career than what he did.
Man, Justin Blackman, I mean, there was so much hype surrounding him. A lot of people thought he was going to be, the next Dez Bryant.
The next Dez, exactly. But
next Dez Bryant coming out of Oklahoma State. They thought he was going to be the big-bodied, freak of nature, fast wide receiver, and he turned out to be a complete bust. Also off the field issues popping up. Um, it was really sad to watch. This was another one of those, and I think it's one of those things where certain positions just don't seem to hold up in the draft or don't appear to be as easily scouted as other positions, right? And a wide receiver definitely has to be one of those positions
Mm-hmm.
because the number of wide receiver busts in the first round is just so high. And I think part of that is just the transition from the college game to, the NFL. But then another part of that is just,
Maturity.
yeah, it's just that maturity, being able to go out and do what you're supposed to do. And man, for Justin, it's one of those cases of what could have been.
You definitely are correct. Let's get to this comment right quick. Fraction one. He asks, "What's worse, Leaf or Blackman?"
Mm. Now,
I mean,
Ryan Leaf had to be first. Yeah.
we'll, we'll debate. Let's just say we'll debate that very shortly. We'll get to Mr. Ryan Leaf very shortly. I'll give you a hint on that one. I'll just say this with Justin Blackman, for a guy that was a two-time Biletnikoff winner in college, which is the best wide receiver award in college, and to pretty much flame out within three years in the NFL, which is very disappointing because everybody saw the potential. Everybody saw how great he could have been. It just unfortunately didn't pan out. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Their best first round draft pick is Mr. Tight End Tony Gonzalez. Their worst quarterback, Todd Blackledge. Now, again, we talked about this in the pre-show. We talked about this with not just this team, but also the Cincinnati Bengals. When it comes to the best, could be Mr. Patty Mahomes. Could have put him in there, but I'll let you take the floor after you sip on your water.
Yeah, I think some people would say Patrick Mahomes or want to make an argument for Patrick Mahomes. There's still time. I know we said with Joe Burrow that there's potential for him to be up there, but Joe Burrow also wasn't competing with somebody like Tony Gonzalez. I just don't. I think Patrick Mahomes needs a lot more before he's going to take that position from Tony Gonzalez. And there are other great first round picks in the Chiefs organization as well. Derek Johnson being one of them, linebacker
Mm-hmm.
out of the University of Texas that played
Mm-hmm.
many years for Kansas City and led that defense and did so many great things for them from the linebacker position. So with Patty Mahomes, I think time is his best friend as far as he's got the time. It's early in his career that he can continue to rack up these AFC Championship appearances, potentially more Super Bowl rings, and that will catapult him directly into. I know he has one. Some people may argue like, well, Tony necessarily didn't do that for Kansas City. Um, Tony did so much more, and you can only do so much, right? You can
Especially
only
as a
do so
tight
much,
end.
especially as a tight end. Football is the ultimate team sport. One guy can't carry the load, so the argument is against him. But we just know it's Tony. It's got to be Tony, and then Todd Blackledge. Um, when you have a career completion percentage of 48.1, you are as a first round draft pick, yeah, you are a bust. Plain and simple.
Just a tad. Todd Blackledge honestly just goes to show you again. Stop trying to get these Penn State quarterbacks. It doesn't work out. I promise you, it doesn't. Nobody goes to Penn State to go play quarterback. It's linebacker you. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. First round draft pick. Their best one was offensive lineman Gene Upshaw. Their worst, of course, Mr. Famous quarterback Jamarcus Russell. We all know about his ups and downs. Unfortunately, though, Mr. Gene Upshaw. Let's give a little love to Mr. Gene Upshaw right quick, because if it wasn't for Gene Upshaw, we wouldn't be able to have the NFLPA at the moment because he was the founding father for the NFLPA. And fortunately, when it comes to certain older people in life, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And definitely have to give your kudos to Mr. Gene Upshaw for the things that he did on the field and also off the field. And hopefully Ish can stop dropping things over there because he should know the good and damn well that the mic picks up everything. So, with that being said, Ish, how do you feel about these picks?
Oh, it had to be Jamarcus Russell. You know, the thing I thought about when I saw Jamarcus Russell in the Las Vegas Raiders, the alleged story of them giving him a blank tape and sending it home with him, only for him to come back and say that he watched film, not knowing it was a blank tape.
Yeah. That's when staff like, nigga, we know you lying now.
Yeah, if that story is really true,
which it probably is, it probably is.
Man, Jamarcus Russell, like, he is by far the ultimate bust. The ultimate bust. Some people, I think Fracture Walnut was saying earlier, Leaf or Blackman. Man, Jamarcus Russell is in a class of his own. If they're sending home blank tapes with you and asking you about the tape and you making up stories. Oh man,
I can't not laugh at that one because that one is still mind blowing. But yeah, it's part of your job, Jamarcus. You're supposed to watch tape, Jamarcus. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the one of two LA teams, the Los Angeles Chargers. Of course, this team was once called the San Diego Chargers. So of course, we cannot ever forget linebacker Junior Seau as their best first-round draft pick, and their worst, as we spoke about earlier, Mr. Ryan Leaf. If you don't know who that is, he at one point in time was supposed to maybe beat out of Peyton Manning when it comes to who was going to be that best quarterback of that next generation. And we obviously saw who the clear-cut winner was. But one thing I will say about Ryan Leaf, let's be real though. Let's talk about this guy, not in a bad way, not a malicious way, but just let's talk about his background and his resume. This is a guy that unfortunately didn't make it in the NFL, right? So he had an opportunity to redeem himself by being pretty much handed a quarterback coaching job in a college in West Texas, right ish,
yes.
And he messes that up, and then they say. ESPN says, hey, you know what we should do? We should go ahead and help Ryan Leaf out and get him back on his feet and make him a commentator. Well, they did that, and he wasn't that great at it. Now he's not on TV anymore. And for a guy that, again, Ish, you can help me out with this. For a guy that's very mediocre at a lot of the things that he does, he gets handed a lot of opportunities, I'm assuming probably because of his name. And I just don't understand it because... let Ryan Leaf go be mediocre on his own. I don't think he wants anybody else's help to continue to be mediocre. He's in the same class as Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler's a decent quarterback, but he's mediocre. He don't want to be great-ish.
Yeah, I just think Ryan Leaf didn't have the mental fortitude to be a quarterback in the NFL is what it ultimately boiled down to. He couldn't handle the pressure. He couldn't handle being the face of the franchise. And unfortunately for him, part of what makes him, infamous in the history of the game is that he was at one time, considered to be better than Peyton Manning. There was that debate going on of who's the better quarterback, who's the better guy. And, unfortunately for the Chargers, it didn't turn out to be Ryan Leaf, so.
Hey, and again, that's when I tell you all the time, Ish, when it comes to the draft is about potential. It's not about. I'm sorry. It's about potential when it comes to what you think this guy could be. It's not about you did this in college. It's going to automatically translate over to the NFL. It's just not the case at all. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Los Angeles Rams and. It's easy to put Aaron Donald in there, but the Los Angeles Rams also have another great first-round draft or multiple great first-round draft picks that you can choose from. And Aaron Donald earning that ring this past season, and maybe should have earned maybe a Super Bowl MVP as well, definitely puts him as the best first-round draft pick for the Los Angeles Rams, and the worst for Los Angeles Rams running back Lawrence Phillips. I know people probably want to put Todd Gurley up there, but hey, no, Todd Gurley. That boy was a bad boy. He still holds records to this day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And he got his money before his knee had gotten blown out. Before Lawrence Phillips, he was a guy that never played to the levels that they wanted him to be. He played only 25 games, rushed for 1,200 yards, and after drafting Lawrence Phillips, the Rams were actually able to get Jerome Bettis in a trade the year following. So, again, this is another one of those worst trades that, man, it sucked, but it turned into something pretty decent.
So it can't be the worst.
Again, it is.
I'm gonna keep holding that stance. It can't be the worst if it turns into something better.
It's just a part of the NFL story, ish. Okay, I didn't make
all right, but I mean, whatever you say.
Don't be a hater. All right, the Miami Dolphins. Let's head down to Florida. Their best first-round draft pick, of course, quarterback Dan Marino. Their worst first-round draft pick, another quarterback named Rick Norton. Now, I know most people don't know who the hell Rick Norton is because I didn't know who the hell Rick Norton was, and I had to go look him up myself. But apparently, he was one of Miami's earliest draft picks. Quarterback played 31 games over 4 seasons, and he never completed more than 43.9% of his passes over an entire year. He also only had 4 more times interceptions than he did touchdowns. He had 30 interceptions to 7 touchdowns. So, just to let y'all know, if you ever want to be mediocre in your life and make millions of dollars, come on down and be an NFL quarterback. You get paid $1 million, even if you're trash. Just ask Baker Mayfield. Oops.
Too soon.
I'm kidding. He was hurt last year. I'm not going to get on him. He was hurt last year. Let's hope he can redeem himself so he won't be out on the sideline crying no more. All right. We already know who Dan Marino is. We're not going to sit here and continue to talk about Mr. Ace Ventura over there, pet detective. Let's go ahead and move on to the Minnesota Vikings. Their best first-round draft pick, Alan Page. Their worst defensive tackle, Demetrius Underwood. I'm going to let y'all know right now. I don't know who the hell Demetrius Underwood is, but I do know Mr. Alan Page was a part of the Purple People Eaters back in the day when it comes to the Minneapolis Vikings having one of the best defenses in NFL history. Ish.
I find it funny that I always find it funny when the best and the worst are from the same position.
I know, right?
It kind of speaks to when a team kind of is looking for a specific piece, and so they're trying to get a specific piece, and they just can't get it, and then it somehow clicks for them, and they end up with the piece. That's kind of what I would see with this Alan Page and Demetrius Underwood. Like you said, Underwood just not good at all. And Alan Page, he did a great job. Part of the Purple People Eaters, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, what else can you say when you're part of the most iconic group to play for your franchise?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and move this train on to New England. Patriots first-round draft pick. The best one is offensive lineman John Hanna. Their worst would be defensive lineman Kenneth Sims, I should say. Sorry. And, of course, John Hanna, for the folks that don't know, probably one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play the game. And also for Mr. Kenneth Sims, he was a guy that was supposed to be a sure thing going into the 1982 draft. Just unfortunately just did not pan out. Only played 17 games in 8 seasons. So that's pretty easy one when it comes to the worst first round draft pick. All right, go ahead and move on to New Orleans Saints. Their best first round draft pick, offensive lineman Willie Roaf, and their worst one, defensive tackle Jonathan Sullivan. Ish.
Yeah, not much to say here. Just solid choices.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the New York Giants. Their best first round draft pick, Mr. Lawrence Taylor, aka Mr. Change the Game, and also their worst tight end Derek Brown. Now, we talked about this earlier, where when it comes to as a franchise, why are you drafting a certain position that high, right? Hey, Derek Brown might have to be one of those guys. Um, we don't hear too many tight ends going in the first round, first of all, and for him to go number 14 pick in the 92 draft is pretty eye raising. He only put up 11 receptions for 87 yards in 3 seasons before New York went ahead and sent him off to Jacksonville Jaguars 95 in the expansion draft. So imagine getting a first round draft pick and it going to a tight end that doesn't do anything for you. Disrespectful. And of course, Lee says, "Don't disrespect Danny Dimes like that."
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. When you got a guy named One Hand Danny Dimes, how is that not your best ever first round draft pick? That's all I'm gonna say.
And all I'm going to say is we're going to go ahead and move on to the next New York team because both of these gentlemen right here are on drugs, like Lawrence Taylor. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the New York Jets. Their best first round draft pick, cornerback, Mr. Darrell Revis Island. Their worst defensive end, Vernon Golston. Ooh, I think this is one of the more interesting ones as well too, Ish, because this was in the same. This happened in their same time frame of each other. They played with one another, and this was a time where the Jets were getting better. They were getting better under Rex Ryan, and they wanted to add another piece here and there to complete the defense. And they assumed Vernon Golston was going to be that guy to help them, right? And it just didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. He's around the same time as when that defense was really picking up, like you said, under Rex Ryan. They were doing some good things, and it just never really panned out with him. He looked the part, but
exactly.
He didn't play the part the right way. So
no, it's funny. It's funny Lee brings this up because this is what happens when not you, Lee. I'm talking about the little ones when little kids are out here playing Madden and watching their Instagram highlight tapes. He says Golston was solid, wasn't he? He always had some good Madden ratings. Well, Madden doesn't things that happen on the field unfortunately doesn't translate the way it needs to on Madden. And when you are a defensive end and you've never registered a sack in your NFL career, that's a problem. So, that being said, that's why he is the worst first-round draft pick for the New York Jets. Let's go ahead and move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, brotherly love. Now, this is an interesting first-round draft pick to me because technically the Philadelphia Eagles are able to get Reggie White in the supplemental draft when they got Reggie White. So this isn't a traditional number one draft pick for the Eagles. They got him in the supplemental draft. So I thought that was very interesting, that happening. Their worst first-round draft pick, Mr. Michael Haddax. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of love the last name, though. They ended with the X. Now, I just want to give everybody a little insight on Mr. Michael Haddax. Now, everybody likes to talk bad on Trent Richardson because he couldn't find his way out of a wet paper bag. It was just horrible, right? Well, this guy averaged an NFL worst 3 yards per carry or worse than any running back with more than 500 career total carries. And to be able to have that much potential and to not average more than 3 yards per carry in your 8 years in the NFL is just very unfortunate that your first round draft pick for the Philadelphia Eagles turned out that way. Ish.
Oh, for sure. Reggie White, to me, is another one of those no-brainers for that organization. Just so great what he was able to accomplish for Philadelphia, and even afterward. But yeah, the running back, we are seeing these trends. I don't know if anybody else is catching them, but there are certain positions.
I was going to talk about that at the end. Yeah,
Okay, well.
No, you're good. I'm just letting.
No, I'm
letting
just
you know
saying.
what I think.
But I did want to point that out because
Yeah.
that's definitely something that, as you look through some of the worst or some of the best, you do see a trend as far as certain positions pop up more and more,
Mm-hmm.
and certain positions don't pop up at all.
You are correct. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the other Pennsylvania team, Pittsburgh Steelers. Their first round draft pick, of course, another Hall of Famer for them, Mr. Mean Joe
Mean
Green.
Joe Green.
Can't go wrong with that one. And the worst one is defensive end Huey Richardson ish.
Um, yeah, Mean Joe Green. He's that guy. Um, Huey Richardson. He wasn't.
He came into the league in a transition for the Pittsburgh Steelers when they were transitioning coaches. He was a guy that didn't get selected by the new coaching staff that came in. So the coaching staff that was there, they just couldn't find a role for him, and it ended up him getting traded within a year. He got drafted in '91. He got traded in '92 to the Washington Redskins at the time, who are now, of course, the Washington Commanders. So yeah, with the Steelers, let's be real. We know when it comes to the Steelers, they homegrown their product, and they don't really give up on their product that quickly. And for them to give up on a defensive end within a year, that's very shocking of them. All right, let's go ahead and move on to San Francisco 49. I think this was a very interesting one right here, and we're gonna, of course, talk about this right quick.
What's interesting about this? The old ball coach being the worst one.
Well, yeah, because I don't think a lot of people even know that. I mean, I don't think a lot of people even know how the history of Steve Spurrier really. Like Steve Spurrier is I think is a very interesting man because of the things that he's gone through as a player in college, as a player in the NFL, and then as a coach. A lot of people just know him as a coach, I think, and for him to, of course, have a legit career playing the game, I just think it was a chuckle to see his name. And of course, San Fran's best first round draft pick, another Hall of Famer, Jerry Rice. Don't need to spend another hour talking on him. We know who he is. But again, to see Steve Spurrier on this list, I just thought it was pretty interesting and funny to see. San Francisco worst first round draft pick. This is a list that Steve Spurrier is not really on too many lists of being something bad.
Yeah, I don't think so. But then again, this has nothing to do against Steve Spurrier, the coach, right? Like
Yeah.
this is definitely not saying he's up here as a coach or anything. Like it's strictly as a player, he was a bad pick for them. But hey, look at him now. Jokes on everybody else that was making fun of him because he only went on to be one of the most successful college coaches in the history.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Seattle. I think this one is very interesting as well, too. Their best first-round draft pick, offensive lineman Walter Jones. Their worst linebacker, Aaron Curry. Now, if you do go back a little bit, if you remember Mr. Aaron Curry, he was a very highly touted linebacker come out of Wake Forest, and he was a guy that was running sideline and was supposed to be Bobby Wagner. He was supposed to be what Bobby Wagner was. He famously said that he lost his desire to play in the league once he made it because all he really wanted to do was just make it to the league to prove to himself that he could make it, and he just pretty much gave up on playing football. But here's the kicker, though. He gets drafted by the Seattle Seahawks and pretty much gives up on him, right? And at the moment, he is now an assistant coach with the Seattle Seahawks, which I think is kind of funny because you would think a team that drafted you for you to just, again, at first round, it'd be different if he's a sixth-round draft pick. Just like, all right, we'll let bygones be bygones. But for a first-round draft pick to pretty much give up on you and then 15, 20 years later offer you a job, I just think that's like, man, that's different, right?
Yeah, very different, very different. To even have that opportunity, but hey, man, it goes to show that in this sport, it's all about your talent and what you're able to do for people, and whether or not you're gonna get that second chance or, get to be around for another shot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, their first round draft pick. Their best one would be linebacker Derek Jones. And I know what you see because I see it because I wrote it down. Their worst draft pick is running back Bo Jackson. Now, I know you ask yourself, wow, didn't Bo Jackson play for the Los Angeles Raiders? And you are correct, he did. But, of course, Tampa Bay being Tampa Bay in the 80s, if you remember how they operated things in the 70s and the 80s, was pretty poorly. And at the time, Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to select Bo Jackson in the draft, no matter if Bo wanted to be selected or not. So the Buccaneers ended up drafting Bo Jackson. He ends up signing a year deal to the Royals to play baseball, which of course ended him playing for the Bucks. He then re-entered in the '87 draft, and then of course got selected by the Los Angeles Raiders, and the rest is history. So, a little fun fact for today: if you did not know, Bo Jackson originally got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He did. So the next time you're on a random trivia show and somebody asks you about Bo Jackson, whose team he got drafted to, you're welcome right here on X Talking Ish.
Yeah, the only caveat I have about this one is I do think that there is a conversation to be had on whether it's Derek Brooks or Warren Sapp that should hold that spot. Warren Sapp, we know it was a generational defensive lineman, a great player, did so well. And if Derek Brooks wasn't as formidable as he was, I would say we should straight change it to Warren Sapp. But I think there is a conversation to be had, or at least a little debate to figure out if it should be Derek Brooks or Warren Sapp, because they both kind of played around the same time and did wonders for Tampa Bay. I guess it is just in the eye of the beholder, then, right?
I'm not mad at you on that one. It's interesting. Hey, it's not. You're not wrong. It's debatable. It's very debatable. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Tennessee Titans. Their best first round draft pick would be offensive lineman Bruce Matthews, and their worst would be offensive lineman Isaiah Wilson. Now, if Isaiah Wilson rings a bell, it rings an unfortunate bell to most people because this was a guy coming out of Georgia who had all the intangibles to being another great lineman in the NFL, but he chose to pretty much do what Aaron Curry did when it comes to saying, "Hey, I made it and I'm good. Let me get some of these dollars and keep moving." After Tennessee drafted him, he never made an appearance at training camp. He never showed up at training camp. I'm sorry. Yes, he showed up to training camp. I'm sorry. He was able to play, but he never played a game. I'm sorry. He never played a game for the Titans. Everything that he did was in practice or, of course, in preseason. He got cut from the Titans, and the New York Giants actually picked him up this past season before, of course, their debacle when it comes to letting everybody go there. He famously said with the New York Giants, quote, "I don't give a fuck. Y'all all suck anyways," unquote. So, Ish.
I mean, I don't think anything else has to be said.
It's a true story, too. Go look it up.
Wow.
True story. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last team of the night. Let's go ahead and get y'all up out of here. The Washington used to be Redskins, now Commanders. Their best first-round draft pick, the fastest man alive on the football field. Yes, and it is faster than Tyreek Hill, wide receiver from Mr. Darrell Green. And their worst first-round draft pick, quarterback Mr. Heath Shuler-ish.
I actually would make an argument here. I think you could potentially put what's his name, Champ Bailey.
Champ
Bailey.
Now, could we, or is he more known for being a Bronco?
So that's a good point, but I guess this runs into the same issue that we had earlier with Prime, and when we were talking about Prime Time, and him being more so known for being a Cowboy than being an Atlanta Falcon, part of that organization. Yeah, if we're talking about organization, I guess Champ Bailey's known more for being a Bronco, so you can't necessarily tie Champ to the Commanders organization, but at the same time, I don't know. I like the Sean Taylor one. I think, unfortunately,
It
so.
just didn't have enough years.
He was just taken too soon to say the
But we do
best
appreciate the reply
first
from that
round
man.
of all time. But yeah, that's a difficult one.
Shout out to Fred. He says hi from Albania.
Hey,
Shout out to Albania.
what's up, Fred?
Yeah, you know.
Hope things are going well over there.
I
And
know we have folks tuning in from over there, but what's up? What's up? All right.
I mean, also you could also look at Art Monk. Art Monk is another person.
I'm mad at that.
That you could potentially say best for them of all time.
One thing about the Washington organization, they have players. Okay, they have
most
a list
definitely
of players dating back all the way to the 70s when they were actually decent in the NFL. Right now, they're just going through a long transition phase due to mainly the owner of that organization. But one thing about Darrell Green, look, he earned 7 Pro Bowl bids. Also was a All Pro nomination. First team All Pro nomination thanks to his coverage skills. So a guy to play both ways as well, to be able to do that, I just thought that was very unique. Doing that, that man also says, "Help a show, boys," and he also asked, "What about Trent Williams?" Look, Trent Williams is definitely
that's another one. That's another one.
That's a good one. Look, I ain't mad at him. That's Dooley's team. He's supposed to know his first.
Yeah, he should be throwing out more of these.
Hey, he's supposed to be the one about here throwing out these names. So we appreciate you for tuning in. As always, now I'm happy we was able to get up out of here within an hour. We did what we did. Now tune in though on Thursday. We will be doing a live show where we will be, of course, simultaneously streaming live with the NFL draft. So if y'all want to jump in and talk some draft with us, I will be here first to set up the live stream. Hopefully Ish can join me. Ish do have some prior plans.
Yeah,
so
I'll be traveling that day, but if I can, I will
join,
definitely.
He will. If not, most likely it will just be me and my friends. Who y'all are my friends. Y'all my family. Y'all not. It's not
the
fans,
family.
It's the family. All right. So with that being said, another great episode of X Talking Ish. We appreciate all of y'all for tuning in tonight, and of course. Definitely. Everybody, I just want to give a shout out right quick before we go. Everybody that's tuning into the podcast is doing numbers. At the moment, we have over a total of 1,500 plus streams going on at the moment. So, to start out from 0 to 1,500, we appreciate all of the love. And again, Ish, we will see y'all on Thursday. The Thursday's episode will not be on the podcast. So if you want to check that out,
you got to check it out live.
Exactly. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. So that being said, we will see y'all next Tuesday to recap the draft, of course. And hope y'all have a great rest of the night. See y'all.